Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat, the controversial Spur of a K video game franchise that took the early 90s by storm. It wasn't just a game, it was a phenomenon that felt louder, darker, and somehow more dangerous than anything else at the time. There was a raw edge to it, a sense that it didn't quite belong on the shelf alongside everything else. And while its violence made the headlines, it was the memorable characters and quirky game design that stuck with people. Part of the atmosphere came from the endless rumours and urban legends that seemed to follow the series wherever it went. Stories of hidden fighters, secret moves and unlockable content passed from playground to playground like sacred knowledge. Most of it untrue, all of it compelling. Mortal Kombat thrived on that mystique, blurring the lines between what was real and what was imagined, feeding into the idea that the game world was deeper, stranger and more mysterious than anyone truly knew. But every now and then, a rumour would turn out to be completely true. Take the elusive Mortal Kombat Nitro Edition for the Super Nintendo, for example. A version whispered about for decades, said to be faster, bloodier, and far more violent than anything Nintendo would have dared to release at the time. For years, some dismissed it as merely a myth, until footage finally surfaced 32 years after its quiet cancellation, proving that they really were working on this game once upon a time. But what's even more interesting is that the Nitro Edition is just the tip of the iceberg. There are multiple Mortal Kombat projects that never saw the light of day, ideas that were shelved mid-development and versions of Mortal Kombat that were quietly erased from the official timeline. Today we're going to look at one of these lesser known chapters, a forgotten piece of the puzzle tucked away in an archive or lost to time that we are yet to play. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. If you like weird gaming history, subscribe, because this is the story of the mysterious lost Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice. Yeah! Personally, I've always found it thrilling to look into those juicy, little-known nuggets of fighting game history. Those hidden stories and forgotten facts that make this genre so legendary. After all, there's a reason why the titans of the 90s still dominate the scene today, constantly getting fresh new entries and keeping fans hooked decade after decade. But you know what's just as exciting as forgotten lore? Scoring absolute knockout deals on the latest heavy hitters. Right now, through my links, you can grab Mortal Kombat 1 with a bone-crunching 65% off, Tekken 8 with a mighty 64% off, and Street Fighter 6 at a staggering 74% off, plus huge discounts on character passes to round out your roster. And if you're a retro warrior, don't worry, I've got you covered too. You can slash up to 90% off of thousands of games from the Marvel vs. Capcom collection to the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary collection, and beyond. So go grab yourself some absolute bargains for next to nothing, then kick back, crack on with the video, and let's dive even deeper into the thrilling world of fighting games. There are many tragedies in the world of video games. The odd development hell here, the occasional cancelled sequel there, but few are quite as infuriating as the tale I'm about to tell you. You see, what if I told you that one of the most promising Mortal Kombat games ever conceived, a title that had the potential to redefine the franchise, was killed off before it even had the chance to breathe fire or exhale frost? Well, this is the unfortunate fate of Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice, a game planned to star the franchise's two most iconic characters, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, not as bitter rivals but as uneasy allies. A bold new direction that would have taken the brutal spirit of Mortal Kombat out of the tournament arena and hurled it into a cinematic beat-em-up landscape of all things. But instead, it became just another corpse in the crypt of gaming history. A discarded idea buried under management's incompetence, budget constraints, and the ever-looming spectre of corporate cowardice. But believe it or not, there was a time that this game seemed like it would be good despite the franchise's rocky relationship with spin-offs. In fact, speaking of spin-offs, a good historical point of reference relating to this game's conception would be Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. That's right, the game that dared to ask what if Mortal Kombat was a side-scrolling platformer and also borderline unplayable. Released in 1997 for the PlayStation and Nintendo 64, this was Midway's bold and ultimately misguided attempt to expand the Mortal Kombat universe beyond the fighting genre. It was meant to be the start of a whole series of action-adventure spin-offs, focusing on individual characters, and Sub-Zero was the unlucky guinea pig. Mythology Sub-Zero was a prequel to the main Mortal Kombat series, setting up the events of the original tournament and fleshing out Sub-Zero's backstory as an assassin. The idea on paper sounds decent. Lore expansion, a darker tone, cool cutscenes, and a blend of classic Mortal Kombat combat with platforming and puzzle solving. But the execution? Oh dear. People hate Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, mainly because it took the stiff, clunky Mortal Kombat fighting engine and awkwardly shoved it into a side-scrolling platformer, where even turning around required a separate button. The platforming was dreadful, Sub-Zero jumps like a brick, hit detection is dodgy, and traps and enemies pop out with no warning, making it feel more like a punishment than challenge. Difficulty was cheap, deaths were constant, and bosses felt designed purely to test your patience. Even the presentation was uneven. The PlayStation got cheesy FMV cutscenes, while the Nintendo 64 was stuck with static images. Some fans admire its attempt to expand the lore, but most remember it as a frustrating mess, better left in the past. The game sucked, but the very inclusion of the word mythologies in the title clearly hinted at a grander ambition. A whole series of spin-offs, each diving into the backstories of different Mortal Kombat characters from across the realms. It was supposed to be the beginning of a bold new narrative direction for the franchise. But unfortunately, Sub-Zero's embarrassing outing was so poorly received that those plans were swiftly iced. Sub-Zero would receive 0 sub-series follow-ups. However, before work would commence on Fire and Ice, another ill-fated attempt to expand the franchise beyond its fighting roots would be made, this time focusing on Jax in a gritty, military-themed action-adventure. Once again, the ambition was there, a darker, more grounded look at the Mortal Kombat universe from a different perspective. But just like Mythologies, the execution was nothing short of disastrous. Worse, in fact. The rush development resulted in clumsy controls, dull level design, and a glaring lack of polish turned what could have been a compelling spin-off into an absolute embarrassment. It lacked the depth, excitement, and identity of the mainline games, and by the time it limped onto shelves, it was already being written off as another cautionary tale. What was meant to be a bold new chapter for Jax instead became a footnote in Mortal Kombat history, and not a flattering one. Sure, for every Mortal Kombat Mythologies or Special Forces, there's a landfill site still trying to forget they existed. But then, in 2005, something miraculous happened. We got Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, a cooperative action-adventure game that was actually good. It took Mortal Kombat out of its traditional 2D confines and actually makes it fun. Yes, fun. I know, a shocking twist in this franchise's blood-splattered past. Gone were the awkward platforming segments and laughable hit detection of past tries. Instead, we had beautifully violent brawling, spine-ripping combos, smooth character switching, environmental fatalities, and dare I say it, some of the best co-op gameplay the PlayStation 2 era ever delivered. Critics praised it, fans adored it, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Mortal Kombat had proven that it could work outside of a tournament bracket. Even Ed Boon himself, co-creator of the franchise, has repeatedly sung its praises over the years. In fact, he once referred to Shaolin Monks as one of the best things we ever did outside the mainline series. A rare moment of self-awareness in an industry usually more interested in loot boxes than legacy. It was stylish, it was savage, it was satisfying. A flawless victory in every sense of the word. And most importantly, it laid the groundwork for what came next. This was the logical next step that could have launched the Shaolin Monks concept to further prominence, which naturally means it never happened. But oh, what a sequel it could have been. Due to its links to the beloved predecessor, Mortal Kombat Fire Ice is often considered to be the holy grail of lost spin-off potential. A follow-up to Shaolin Monks would have paired the franchise's most iconic combatants in a cooperative action-adventure spectacle so explosively badass, it could have made Raiden himself short-circuit with excitement. The game was being worked on under the care of Paradox Development, a team that would eventually be absorbed into Midway Studios Los Angeles. Fire and Ice was being built as a bold leap into the then nascent Xbox 360 generation, meaning that rather than coming on a cartridge like Sub-Zero did previously, this spin-off would have come in a box that looked something like this. A new engine, a grittier aesthetic, a fresher emphasis on elemental synergy in combat, and most excitingly of all, a full-blown narrative campaign starring everyone's favourite Hellspawn ninja and the icy poster boy of Lin Kuei had all the ingredients to take the world by storm, or perhaps more fittingly, unleash a fiery blizzard. There were whispers that the game would delve deeper into their tortured pasts, unravelling secrets buried in Mortal Kombat lore, and perhaps, just perhaps, give us an emotionally charged, character-driven journey amidst all the dismemberment and geysers of gore. It is said that at one point a prototype level was even constructed, running on Xbox 360 hardware, complete with new visuals and 3D models of both lead characters. Sources suggest the design documents hinted at themed levels based on their respective realms and past traumas, with boss battles against characters like Noob Saibot, Sector, and perhaps even Quan Chi himself, the scheming necromancer responsible for ruining both their lives in the first place. Now you might be thinking, with such a glorious concept, an iconic duo, and a successful predecessor paving the way, how could this possibly go wrong? Well, allow me to introduce you to the true final boss trio of game development. Budget cuts, time constraints, and executive level idiocy. Yes, dear viewers, the mighty Mortal Kombat Fire Ice was slain not by Shao Kahn or a fatality, but by the cold, unfeeling hand of corporate mismanagement. Original development began in late 2005, right as Paradox were trying to ride the high of Shaolin Monk's success, but by early 2006, the dream was already circling the drain. According to Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon himself, the project was doomed not by a lack of vision, but by certain constraints from above. On this very subject, speaking to Game Informer, Boon explained when they finished Shaolin Monks, the guys at Paradox were gonna do another one called Fire and Ice. It was going to be a cooperative Scorpion and Sub-Zero game. They actually started the early stages of that game, but they couldn't do it in time and under budget, so the project was cancelled and kind of went away. As a result, the axe fell hard, Fire and Ice was unceremoniously cancelled, and as if that weren't enough salt in the wound, the studio was gutted shortly after. Half the staff were laid off, management was reshuffled, and any lingering dreams of finishing the project were tossed into a shallow grave behind the office car park. And what became of the poor souls left behind at Paradox, you asked? Were they given the chance to channel their creative talents into another visionary Mortal Kombat spin-off? A new IP perhaps? A bold new genre-defining title? No, they were shoved into the development of a TNA wrestling game. That's right, from elemental ninjas and co-op fatalities to Jeff Jarrett and a digital Don West. A more brutal fate I could not imagine. From Fire and Ice to slapnuts and steel chairs. It's a transition so tragic that it deserves a somber flute solo. Going from a game about Earthrealm and Outworld to something that feels more like an indie wrestling promotion. Bit of a come down, isn't it? I mean, come on, even I've had matches in TNA. Going from a title that once featured Shao Kahn into something where I'm technically part of the lore is a massive downgrade, if I do say so myself. Then again, TNA is now all canon to all WWE content as well, so technically Big Daddy Top Hat is canon to the John Cena heel turn. But I digress. As for the Fire and Ice prototype, reportedly it was shelved, forgotten, left to rot as a mere footnote in Midway's long history of squandered opportunities. What an absolute disappointment, particularly with what we know about this mysterious game. Gameplay-wise, Fire and Ice was poised to build on everything Shaolin Monks got right, and go even further. Dual character combat mechanics, tag team environmental fatalities, elemental puzzles requiring actual cooperation. None of this you press the switch while I fight nonsense. I'm talking potential flaming pathways that only Scorpion could cross, frozen water bridges formed by Sub-Zero's cryomancy, and bosses that required both players to attack simultaneously with polar opposite energy types. All the ingredients were there to have made this one work. There were even whispers of alternate endings, skill trees for each character, and deeper RPG-like progression systems. So many missed possibilities, and while all of this might sound like fanfiction fever dreams, remember, we're not talking about pie-in-the-sky nonsense. These were real ideas, baked into early design documents, and teased by prototype assets. The vision was there, the direction was there, the talent was there. All that was missing was time, money, and executives with half a functioning brain cell. Now, naturally, with a project this tragically cancelled, we're left to piece together its existence through scraps, fragments of a dream scattered across obscure dev interviews, old forums, and grainy concept art shared in passing like contraband among desperate fans. But oh, what delightful scraps they are. Think dimly lit temples, jagged ice caves, scorched arenas, the kind of locations you'd expect to see if Tim Burton directed Mortal Kombat stage select screens. And at the centre of it all, our deadly duo, early 3D models of Scorpion and Sub-Zero, reimagined for the HD era with enough edge and muscle to make a Tekken character feel underdressed. Beyond the prototype, there are also whispers of environmental sketches, alternate costume designs, and even early UI concepts, the kind of tantalizing visual teases that make die-hard fans cry into their steelbook collector's editions. Sadly, most of this remains locked behind developer vaults, long since dissolved into nothingness when Midway's financial misfortunes finally ripped the soul from the company's chest like, well, a Mortal Kombat fatality. Still, what we do have is enough to paint a picture of a game with ambition. Not just a Shaolin Monks rehashed with new skins slapped on, but a project trying to evolve the spin-off formula into something cinematic, character-driven and visually distinct. When cancellation was confirmed, the outcry was swift, bitter and long-lasting. Fan petitions sprung up like mushrooms in a crypt, Reddit threads, message boards and YouTube comment sections became digital shrines to a game that never was. To this day, you'll still find people sobbing in comment threads about how Fire and Ice could have saved the franchise, as if the series was moments from collapse instead of just slightly repetitive. In fact, Boon has gone on record more than once calling Shaolin Monks the best spin-off of the franchise ever produced, even expressing regrets over never being able to continue that path, stating there are a few games that have been started, and some that never should have been finished. Special Forces probably shouldn't have ever been shipped. It's candid, but the additional subtext was clear. Fire and Ice was one of the good ones, the one that got away. Now, in the grand tapestry of Mortal Kombat history, you might be wondering, what does it really matter that Fire and Ice was cancelled? The mainline fighting games continued, didn't they? The franchise survived, didn't it? Yes and yes, but that's not the point, is it? Because Fire and Ice died, so too died any serious ambition of expanding the Mortal Kombat universe beyond its standard punch-kick fatality template. The franchise retreated, slinking back into its tournament roots like a shamed warrior crawling home after a flawless defeat. What followed was a shift, a pivot, a cold, calculated course correction back towards safe territory. No more experimental co-op brawlers, no more character-driven adventures. Instead, we got Mortal Kombat vs DC Universe, a bizarre tonal train wreck that paired Raiden with Batman and replaced fatalities with awkwardly sanitized heroic brutalities. It was a bold new direction, if your bold new direction was what if Mortal Kombat had less blood and more capes. To be fair, it wasn't all bad. That game did lay the groundwork for the later Injustice series, which at least embraced its comic book absurdity, but the damage had already been done. The lesson learned from Fire and Ice's demise wasn't let's try again but smarter, no, it was never try again. And so the co-op Mortal Kombat dream was quietly shelved, locked away in the Netherrealm's deepest vault, while the franchise doubled down on cinematic story modes within its mainline fighting titles. Sure, we eventually got great fighters like Mortal Kombat 9, 10 and 11, but the idea of anything adventurous, anything creatively bold, was gone. Even now, every time Ed Boon tweets something vaguely cryptic, you'll find people begging, pleading for a Shaolin Monks remake, or for Fire and Ice to finally rise from its ashes. And honestly, who can blame them? In a world oversaturated with soulless live service slop and battle passes for toothpaste skins, a good old-fashioned co-op action brawler sounds more appealing than ever. So yes, Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice may be gone, but the fire still burns. And the ice? Well, it never really melted, did it? It just lies dormant, waiting. Maybe one day someone at Netherrealm will see sense, open the crypt and unleash Fire and Ice upon the world at last. But until that day comes, we can only imagine what might have been. A fire that never burned, an ice that never formed. A legacy that melted away before it could ever truly freeze itself into place. Don't forget, if you want to drown your sorrows in ultra-violent bargains, my affiliate links are packed with fighting game deals hotter than Scorpion's temper and colder than Sub-Zero's stare. Grab 74% of Mortal Kombat 1, 64% of Tekken 8, 74% of Street Fighter 6, and up to 90% of thousands of retro and modern titles too. Cheerio!